Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GeekVerse podcast. The GeekVerse review. This is Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2 spoilers review. Just a nice, mouthful. I am the master of puppet trust now, and this time I'm joined by... Yeah, is this way?
The one running up that hill,
There,
Jessica.
there you go. Unfortunately, we're not getting the same type of residuals that she is. I think I read that she's going to get like 2.3 million K-Push. So, had you heard that song before this show?
I had not.
I talked about the first review. It's nuts. I don't know. I had actually heard that song because of wrestling. That's what was in a wrestling vignette and whatnot. But Emily hadn't. Lots of people hadn't. So good for Kate Bush, just having a big revival here of her career. Because no
She
one
broke.
apparently knew who she was.
Yeah, she broke 3 world records with this song. It's like
Yeah.
the longest it's taken for something to get to number 1, the longest time between times in the number 1 spot, and then something else as well. So good for
I'm
her.
sure I'm sure she does care, but I guess I haven't read it. But when she asked, she's very nonchalant, like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, whatever." Like, I'm not really, don't watch the show, don't follow her or anything like that. But I'm sure she'll care when she gets that check, like in a few months from the ups from Apple Music and Spotify. That's when she'll care. And that's be like, "Oh, I love Stranger Things." It's been a huge thing. But yeah. Well, let's see. This week, what do we got going on? You get the 5th episode of Miss Marvel. I think I don't know if Dylan's played it, but Taylor's on SideQuest this week. They're reviewing a video game. I don't know if it's a one-person review or whatnot, but SideQuest I'm with Dylan Taylor, so check that out. There'll be a couple newscasts this week. There's one on Tuesday, and then there's one on Wednesday, and then Thor: Love and Thunder, and then The Boys season finale is on Friday. It's already over, so it's a busy, kind of sneakily a busy week. I am doing first aid at my work, so I'm completely mad. I've just gotten what I've had today. I agreed to it, just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then now I found out, I thought it was just gonna be a couple hour course. No, it's like the week long course. I have homework. There's like, oh yeah, 1 to 3 hours. So Taylor Kirklin, if you're listening to this, you'll be editing all the podcasts this week because I don't even have time in general to be doing this type of stuff, and I hate it. I hate it. Reading this reminds me like being back in school, and I hated school. So I've not done any post-secondary. I absolutely hated school. I hate homework. I hate all that stuff. So seeing all these things, I'm like, man, I'm dreading this week. Gonna be one of the worst weeks of my work life ever. Ever.
Do you honestly think that Taylor or Kirkland will listen to this?
Taylor, I don't think listens to many podcasts. I think Kirkland will when he finishes it, but I don't think Kirkland's gonna finish it anytime soon because he's traveling. I don't think he's back until Tuesday, so I don't think by the time he finishes it, he won't even care. But either way, they're getting a message tomorrow saying, hey, same with Miss Marvel. I don't think I'm staying up to do that because I want to pass this first aid test and everything like that. Just stupid. I hate tests. I hate homework. I hate assignments, stuff like that. It's awful. But I do like Stranger Things. I'm going to start off with you because, it's a running joke. We talk about many times GeekVerse, but, you weren't on Volume 1. I hate the Volume 1 and Volume 2. They've said next year, whenever Season 5 happens, they're not doing that. And they've also said they're not doing weekly release. They're going to stick to the binge format and everything like that. But what did you think about, obviously, the season so far and then the 2 episodes to close it out, which is, they were 2 episodes, but together they were 3 hours and 55 minutes. So you could almost say like a 4 to 5 episode thing just kind of scrunched together. So what did you think about it previously and then these last 2?
For these ones, are you doing like a non-spoiler kind of?
Yeah, we'll do like a 5-minute non-spoiler. People, even though it's 2 episodes, we'll do like a mini non-spoilers, take the ad break, and then we can let people have a chance.
Okay. Yeah, so the first part of it, I was so into it.
Mm-hmm.
The ending for that one, well, I could see it starting to appear and come, an episode or 2 before. That ending just had me so stoked. Just with everything that happened and kind of wondering about where it would go and connecting a bunch of pieces together. There was definitely some parts in the first volume that felt kind of dragged on a little bit, but overall, when I look back, that it was a fun experience. I remember it being really enjoyable and really being excited for volume 2. I don't feel the same about this volume 2. I feel,
oh wow, okay,
I feel just kind of bland about it. I feel that
okay,
these last 2 episodes actually kind of sullied the excitement I had before. So I have a few reasons for that, and I'll definitely talk about that on the spoiler side of things. But I am excited for season 5, and especially, more that binge idea. But I don't have the same wanting of like when volume 1 was done, I was like, okay, I need to know what's going to happen next. I'm so excited. And now I'm kind of like, well, I guess I'm waiting another 3 years, so
Oh yeah. But does it being the
So,
final season make you a bit more excited though? Because that's kind of like a all bets are off sort of thing. That's the final season, right?
oh, for sure I'm excited about it wrapping
Mm-hmm.
up and having answers to all these questions, but I just feel the ending of volume 2, which it almost didn't really feel cliffhangery. It was just kind of like coat
Mm.
hangery.
Really, I'm excited against sports because I feel like it's a pretty big cliffhanger that we leave on. You know, it's like the tides have turned in a way. You know, things are happening that's never happened before.
I mean, in that sense, yes, but it's ending in a way that you knew that it was going to end. Nothing exciting
Mm.
really happened. It's just like, okay, well, this is exactly where I thought we would be.
Yeah, I can agree to that. That I think that the show, especially these 2 episodes, have been they're predictable, but I guess that's necessarily not too much of a bad thing for me because it's predictable, but it's just so well made and well acted and well choreographed and shot and everything. But it is like. I won't get into specific. There's certain things I thought were gonna happen, did happen. Certain things I didn't think were gonna happen, didn't happen. And yeah, no, I overall enjoyed these 2 episodes quite a bit. I think they had some really good moments in them. I don't think this is like my top season for me when it's put together, but I will. I think we talked about maybe doing a rewatch of them all before the 5th one when that comes out, just because when they show flashbacks, these people younger, there's half the scenes where I'm like, oh, I completely remember this, and there's other scenes where like, I don't think they. At one point, they showed a scene of Max and who's the boyfriend? His name's not Chase. Why am I thinking of
Lucas.
Lucas? Oh, his real name's Chase. I think that's probably why I'm thinking that. Okay, so the actor's name is Chase. I thought that, but they showed some scene of them, a flashback of them like singing, and I was like, I don't remember them singing together at all in this. Now I know what happened, but I'm like, I don't remember that at all. So I definitely need a rewatch of those other seasons because I think only season 1 I had rewatched. But no, I think I enjoyed the majority of this pretty much like I'd say from my review of the first volume, I really didn't need any of the Russia stuff. And if I did need it, maybe half of it because I was not a fan. I was a fan of, okay, we're going to get Hopper and he's back with the crew. But to the much of the point of like the volume 1 stuff, I actually would have been fine if Hopper was just dead because I didn't really like any of that Russia stuff. Like I like Hopper, but the Russia stuff, like I didn't care. And I think you know what that's going. I think there's certain characters you know their fate when this starts up and you kind of, so I'll give you that I think it's definitely more predictable, and I think there's pros and cons to that. As far as I knew exactly where we were going, but I was happy we got there and how we got there. But at the same time, I'll save the spoilers of like it is a difficult situation when you have very likable characters. I love everything they did with the villain. I like Vecna. I said that in volume 1 that I think that's been a shot in the arm because you had Billy last year, but really the last 3 years has just been like beasts and monsters with no dialogue and just running and it's creepy stuff, or it's the government and the government's always going to be a villain. So Vecna I think delivers. I think the answers they give around that character delivers. Obviously they tied him to 11 last, if you're, I'm assuming you've seen volume 1 if you're seeing this, so I think they do some good fleshing out there. So yeah, overall, I did really like it. I don't have too many actual cons. I think they're just kind of more minor ones, and I'm excited to see how they all wrap it up. And for me, at least the finale left in a place that I knew we would kind of get there a little bit, but I didn't know the extent of it, and I actually didn't know like the ending shot of it would be happening right now. And I'll get in that in spoilers. So anything else you want to add before we take off that lid?
I will definitely agree that I thought the exact same thing while I was watching it, that I'm going to go and rewatch seasons 1
Mm-hmm.
and all the way up until this episode when 5 drops because I do want to know exactly kind of what happened. I even found some of the things just with Will that were kind of flashbacky. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't really remember the first season at all. I remember the idea of it, but
Yeah.
not. Uh, so I definitely will agree with that. And there
And
was
actually, I think like there's some things too where they're like, "Oh yeah, this thing's been happening the whole time," and like as I'm watching right now, it doesn't feel like that, which I'm fine with. It just feels like they're saying that, and you can do that. They do that all the time. But I'm excited to see if I watch those other seasons. Does it kind of feel like it flows that way, or does it feel, oh, because they have one of those moments where it's like it's been me the whole time, and it's like, I guess it's been you the whole time. Like I can't say you're wrong because you're in the shadow, so like it's definitely could be you. But they're using clips where I'm like, I don't know if they meant it that way, but at the same time, they I feel like the show at least has had a consistent like plan. It always feels like it always doesn't feel like it's out of nowhere, like the seasons or like new things they introduced. So maybe they did. I just wonder with everything with I'd say with Vecna and how they went by. Was that a day one plan? I would probably say no. I don't think so. Maybe some ideas of it, but I don't think exactly.
I have that in my notes. I want to discuss where you think in the season timelines between one and now that they came up with this idea.
It's funny that we talked about it. Max said, "We'll." He put a chat that has exactly what we're talking about right now. We'll address that in spoilers because I don't want to completely drop it. But you're completely right, and I don't know. I'm of two minds of it. So let's do that. Let's get into spoilers. So yeah, if you've not seen Volume 2, bow out. Come back later. If you don't care or you're wondering if you should watch, you can listen. And yeah, we will be right back. All right, and we are right back. So yeah, let's talk about what Max said put there because that's what you and I were alluding to. And we can just start with Vecna right now because that was one of my big worries going into this season that they were going to kill him. And I'm happy they didn't because I think he's a really good antagonist to have because not only, like I said, I like that it's like a human kind of form thing. It's someone that can talk. I like it's good to have an actual villain that can have motivations and have cool dialogue and stuff like that. It's good. But I actually thought there was a really high chance they'd kill him off and introduce something else. But they pretty much revealed that Vecna, like the whole time, like everything that's happened in the show has been because of him. Now, does it work? Yeah, because the way they like set it up in how they wrote it here is like 11 threw him in the upside down. He's been there since day one, right? But they've done everything where he was the one taking over Billy. He was when they're like, 11, we made this trap for you. And it was really Vecna because he needs her powers and stuff. So it's tough, and I'll read what Max Zed says here. He says, I think that thing I disliked the most about the finale was Vecna being the source the whole time. Kind of undermined the other stories. It's like Blofeld being behind Skyfall. It's a James Bond reference, just so you know, Jessica. They did this whole thing where it's like, oh, I'm like your brother, and I've been trying to get... It was stupid. It was dumb. I don't think the series needed a big bad, and it hurt the previous season. So I'm on the other side where, like I said, I think it's a little, not eye rolly, but it's like, yeah, sure. It didn't hurt it at all. I actually don't mind Vecna being, if it was him the whole time, I don't mind that. The Blofeld thing in Bond, I didn't like because it was this thing where he had like an adoptive brother and then his brother hated him. So every movie was like James Bond's like lame brother out to get him. And it was like, I was me the whole time. So this, to me, it still works because with that in the James Bond world, it felt very convenient. This still at least makes sense to me how they wrote it is, okay, technically a Vecna was the thing thrown back all the way at the very beginning, even before the show started. I can kind of believe that. Yeah, there's some things you kind of have to maybe Jimmy rig to make sense, but I could see why people might be annoyed with it, but I'm just happy he's alive. But what did you think about that as far as he is alive, he's going next season, but also what do you think about the whole, yeah, he seems to be, the source of everything that's happened to Hawkins and its people.
I'm glad that they didn't kill him off. I feel that there's been such a big buildup and so much going on that to just kill him off and have to restart on the last season with someone new, it's just too much. So I think kind of everything that led up with him, being able to say that you can tell that he's weakened and them actually being able to damage him, but, Elle not being able to fully face him. I think those are all really good things that just show where the kind of power balance lies going into the final season.
Mm-hmm.
As far as him being there the whole time, I think in theory, if I go back and watch it and it all makes sense, like there's something that happens and I can see, okay, I can see how this is supposed to be Vecna and see that this is where they plan that, then I'm happy with it. But if I go back and watch it and you can tell like halfway through season 2 is where all of a sudden they got the idea for Vecna and everything in season 1 doesn't connect and doesn't make sense at all. And that idea, I don't like it. But if they, with Star Wars, right, they plan out 3 episodes at a time.
No.
What isn't that what they do? I thought they did with Star Wars.
Well, they tried, and then they changed the plans and whatnot. But yeah, the idea would be you plan it out that, take example for the prequels, you meet Anakin Skywalker. By the end of episode 3, he's going to be Darth Vader,
Yeah, so if they had this plan all along, then I'm happy with it, and I'm happy to be able to go back and see all these little Easter eggs and breadcrumb trails that lead to it. If it just, like I said, if it comes in at season 3 that you can tell that that's where they got this idea and that's where they started moving that direction, I don't think that's I think it's going to hinder because we are going to get tons of people going back and picking out these little details that are one way or another.
Well, I think though that's a good thing for them. I would hope of the writers of the show, even if they didn't plan this, they went back and said, "Hey, is this going to contradict anything?" I think that's a good thing about in the past. So they've had none of these upside down characters other than Billy, which that season just happened. So I feel like they would have went back and rewatched some of that, or they had that in their mind. Other than Billy being like possessed, the other characters they don't talk. They're just monsters. They're just creepy things. So you're never going to have anybody that says anybody that's going to go against what Vecna says, right? And that's what I've liked about him. He's the first villain that has like a voice. Maybe it's only the stuff with Billy, because they were flashing back to Billy, whether it was planned or just they listened to the dialogue and like, hey, this could still work for Vecna. I think they've covered their bases. So I bet there's gonna be nothing really overtly that you could say, oh, they didn't plan this, but it's not gonna go against it. It's not like Obi-Wan being like, hey, Darth Vader killed your dad. And then later on at Luke Skywalker's like, that doesn't make sense. And then Obi-Wan's like, well, from a certain point of view, like he did kill your dad. But it's like, no, that you're lying, Obi-Wan. So as long as there's nothing like that, I bet they're good. And yeah, I like she's alive. Man, or he's alive. I was going to say, as far as these kids had no urgency when going to kill Vecna. That's what made me really mad is I get it that there's this love triangle forming, but the fact that Nancy and Steve are having this conversation when they're trying to get to Vecna, it's like now is not the time at all. And even when they kill, like I like Nancy as the gun, she has a badass moment. She sawed off the shotgun, all this cool stuff, right? But when she like shot him and with the fire, like they threw the one fire and just watched. I know it's a TV show, I know it's dramatic, but there's times where it's just like you'd be like, wouldn't you just be throwing everything at the moment? You're shooting, and it just felt like that's where I started to go, okay, he is going to survive just because they're taking way too much time. And so that stuff's all right. But I just feel like, again, when you've been through this situation, you have these kids that have gone through this many times, maybe find some sort of reason, like maybe the tendrils are fighting with them, messing with them. But no, they just took their time to get to Vecna, and didn't work out, though. Vecna's still alive. He might be injured, but he's out there.
It gave the esque of whenever there's a fight scene and there's a whole bunch of people surrounding one character and they all just take one turn going to punch the guy in the middle of the circle.
Yeah.
I don't know kind of how they're going to play into it fully, but kind of to connect to that, how do you feel about Will being able to feel and sense that he's weak and his being able to tell his thoughts and that kind of connection to Vecna there?
See, and that's what I'm interested to go back on, because like I feel like it already makes sense as okay, he was the first one to get taken over and he had something in his body. Like it's a difference to 11, right? Where 11 had these powers because like she's special, mutant projects, whatever it may be. Will got taken over. I feel like there's been something in a season 2 or 3 that had alluded before that he still had like almost residue feelings towards stuff. So that one I was fine with, because it just felt like even if they didn't, again, he was already taken over by Vecna before, so it's like Vecna in a sense, right? Like just something from the upside down. That worked enough for me, and I think it's good because they give Will some agency other than just being in the background with 11 and Mike. I think they will next year, because they said this year they're like, we're not addressing his sexuality because they had no plans. I think they will next year, because I think that Stranger Things, one thing they do, I think, well, is they usually listen to the crowds, and I think people they want, and whether that's one way or the other. I know people thought that scene in the truck was him kind of having that moment, which you could go that way. I also just think like you can spin it as just like it's kind of a friend knowing he's losing his best friend. Like after all this, like him and 11 are gonna go off to maybe have a life and everything, and Will's gonna be like left behind. It's like that passing the torch. So yeah, it could work for a way that Will is attracted to Mike, but I didn't actually take it that way. I took it as just it's that used to be us. We were the connection, but now it's you and her, and eventually I'm not going to be around and stuff like that. But I'm fine with him having some sort of feeling of Vecna there, and him and 11, they're already bonding over stuff, so that works out for me.
I disagree as far as the sexuality piece. When Mike was having his monologue with 11, I didn't want to say that I loved you because I thought it would hurt more. And you look at Will in the background, he looks like he's having a moment of clarity of like understanding that that's how he's feeling as well. He, trying to understand his feelings. I definitely think they will address it. It's been such a brought up thing, especially with these 2 episodes having more of those moments. I think for sure they will. I'm okay either way. We don't necessarily need to define that.
Yeah.
But it is nice that he is going to be, like you said, useful again, because right now all he is the person who Elle lived with. We forgot his
Yeah,
birthday
he's her
in part
handler pretty
one.
much. Yeah, yeah. Which I hope they do. I
Even the
think
Duffer
they're.
brothers said.
Oh, I know. I hope that they were like, oh, we might go back and re-edit it so they say May instead of March. Like, oh, don't do that. You guys fucked up. It's like whatever. There's stuff going on. Maybe they forgot, and that can play into things. And well, yeah, it gives them some agency because like that was one of my things that I didn't dislike it, but it felt like Jonathan, Mike, Will, and the other guy. I'm not a big fan of the stoner guy, but everyone seems to love him, so I'm happy for everybody that they seem to like him. But um they just felt like they were not connected to the show at all in volume where like they were doing stuff that was they're trying to get to 11, but I just feel like that's always I know that's always Mike's storyline, but it's just like it just felt like they weren't even in the show. It felt like the other people were the main characters and they were just off to the side. And yeah, Max said, yeah, I did catch. I'm not sure if you've seen Aliens, Jessica, but they did lots of tributes to aliens in this episode because there's Alien and then Aliens, and Aliens like becomes much more of an action movie and stuff like that. But yeah, I was gonna say, do you have anything to add on that crew of people with Jonathan, Mike? Save Jonathan because I'm sure we'll talk about him with Nancy and Steve. But Mike, like I feel like you talked about him already. Like these episodes were just like I don't know. As always, realizing he's gonna love 11, always love 11. And I'm happy with it. It's fine. It's not against the character, but it's just I feel like there's not much that's just what Mike does. He looks after 11, he gets 11, and I like it when he's with the crew because then he can be with his friends, but he wasn't with the crew. So, and like I said, Jonathan will save. So I don't have much more to add on Mike or Will or anything like that.
I was going to say the same thing. I think it's very sad that there more than just Mike didn't get any character development at all in this season. It was,
No.
and that is Mike's true point of this whole season was to be there to give that speech to 11 to get her to get her powers back. That was the whole point of him. That's it.
And he said, "I love you." He said, "I love you." There you go.
That's still not affecting his character.
He developed a little. No, he said like he realized that he was like not pushing her away, but thinking that she might push him away, so she was kind of doing it first. But it's nothing that we haven't tackled before in this type of youth shows and stuff like that before. So
yeah, I think everyone could tell that he loved her. So
yeah, I don't think anyone thinks 11's breaking up. Like 11 and Mike aren't going to end up together in this and everything like that, And that's what I was going to say, because Max was saying he compared it to Empire, or he says it should have been more like Empire Strikes Back. What I thought they were actually kind of going for, funny enough, it felt more like Infinity War jumping to Endgame, where you have like the snap is the town breaking apart and everything. Now, when they said it was an earthquake, I said, I'm like, oh, they're going to say that and just save it. That's where I was surprised. I actually didn't think they were going to end the show with like everything turning hellfire. And I thought they'd still save that for next season. Because now it seems like, okay, if we start season 5, things have to be really bad. And then you have Eddie who died, but like we all knew that was going to happen. Like everyone, their mother knew. Like it's a trope. And that's one thing I think with Stranger Things that is tough, where they don't kill off people unless it's these characters, right? Because you had Sam in season 2, right, when he was with Joyce, and then you had the third season. I can't remember his name, but that Russian Slurpee guy, he was a meme and stuff. He was a likable character, and they killed him. And now Eddie, like every season, they introduce a new person in the cast that everyone really likes and is entertained by, but they kill him in the finale. And I just thought, go ahead.
Gotta toss out Barb. Can't forget Barb.
Yeah, she's a fanfare. Yeah, and they give her some love, at least in volume 1, right? They finally addressed that Nancy still feels guilty and stuff like that. But the second they had the town think Eddie was a murderer in like episode 2, you're like, well, Eddie's not going to get out of this. There's no way they're going to explain this away. And I liked everything they did with Eddie. Like, that's my nickname. The Master of Puppets thing's great. And we'll probably get more into him. But I think it's tough because you want the show to be unpredictable, but at the same time, I feel like they don't want to kill off any of these core kids because everyone loves the kids together, right? And I think they worry of like if you take out one, that might even like hurt the show a bit because they had me with Max the whole time. I was like, Max isn't dying, it's not happening. And then that scene with Lucas, I'm like, fuck, like even her arms and legs breaking, I'm like, no, it's fine. She can still recover from this. It's gonna suck, but she can still recover. But then when she said she couldn't feel anything and see anything, and she like passed out, they actually flipped me. I was like, oh my god, they're actually gonna do it. Wow. Even then, still not an original cast member, but still I was like, okay, one of the now like OGs of the group from season 2. She's a main character of this season, pretty much. And I thought they did it, but then no. 5 minutes later, 11 has the power to bring her back or something like that, which is like, I haven't seen this before, but all right. So again, that's what's the two things. I didn't think Max was going to die. She didn't. And I thought Eddie was a goner. And I think most people did. And he was. And it sucked because I liked Eddie, but it just was writing on the wall and stuff like that. But what do you feel about that as far as like, I still think there's a chance we go through all next year and we don't lose a single of these kids just because it's like they want them to have a happy ending in the beginning. Like maybe like a Jonathan or something. I mean, like the youngest kids. I think they all can make it, honestly. I really do.
I hope not. I know that sounds really bad, but
Kill these fucking kids.
There's just so much going on. I was disappointed when Max came back. I was just like, what the hell? You know, she died. I was actually excited. I was like, finally, like someone that we can have some kind of feelings about. Like, yes, it's sad that Eddie died because he was one of the best characters of the season. But like you said, he's not a main character, so there's not that same emotion that you have connected to someone from 4 seasons. And it also just, you know, kind of just pulling it out of our ass that all of a sudden 11 can bring people back from the dead. Just, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure they maybe will try to like they'll try to explain that next year. They will, because she went into that like comatose state and then she's looking for, like, she keeps going in her mind and she can't find her, right? And I feel like they're gonna try to explain that. That to me bothers me more than the Vecna stuff, because the Vecna stuff, I'm like, okay, I think you can weave this into the story. This power, then if you were to show this, you should have showed something this year then in the flashbacks that she could do that. And yeah, I think even like I said, with Max not being an OG character, if she would have died, that would have given me more stakes going into next year. But I don't know if any of the, like, because the problem is, I think it's, and I don't know if I'm against it, because like all of them have had like shitty lives, right? So you kind of want them to be like, I don't know, I kind of want someone to get a happy ending, but I feel like other than 11, I don't know if anyone's really gonna bite it out of the kids, to be honest. Just because I feel like 11 could make some sort of sacrificial play, but she's done that before, and it's just like she's still alive, so. I don't know. I feel like they're mostly all gonna make it out and get a happy ending, because like, I don't know, it happened in Lord of the Rings. They all got a happy ending, and well, they always lose like one. Like in It, you know, they lost like one of the kids. In Lord of the Rings, they lost Boromir. So maybe they gotta lose one, but then everyone, and I think 11's the one, you know.
Didn't they say that they confirmed 5 people were gonna die? Is that
Next
right?
year?
The Duffer Brothers said 5 people were gonna die.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the
that thing?
parents. That's what it'll be. It'll be like the parents, principal, and Vecna. Like that's who it'll be, you know. So
Yeah.
if it is fun, then that'll be bold. If they do it, then I think it's bold. But I don't know. I feel like they want to give a lot of these characters happy endings at least, you know, and go on actually, because they haven't had a chance to live their life and stuff like that. So speaking of living their life, we got this love triangle. I'm excited to talk to you because I feel like everyone's kind of torn in this. So we had Steve and Nancy, right? They're together season 1 and 2. Season 2 they break up. She ends up with Jonathan for the end of 2 and 3. And now we've had this kind of Jonathan, you know, she keeps trying to get a hold of Jonathan. He won't get back to her. And I love in this finale that he kind of like, he lied. He's like, yeah, I've just been busy with this like 11 government stuff. But really, that was not the whole story, right? The whole story was like he just didn't want her phone, or he was nervous to. But he said that, and then she kind of felt bad because I was like, oh, of course, that's why I couldn't reach you. I could have been able to reach you. This whole time, Steve's talking about his fucking dreams with Nuggets, and Nancy's having these kids. And like I said, I don't mind them having this like connection again. I didn't think the Vecna hunting was the right place for it. Of like fucking Maya Hawke is running through to get to Vecna, trying to find something. These two are just about to make out. It's like, yeah, this is not the time for right now. But we ended in a place that I feel like they're just setting up another love triangle for next year, like the really like full on into it. So I think unless they introduce a new female to the cast that is specifically made for Steve, you'll get a love triangle. And I think that she's actually going to end up with Steve. I don't know how I feel about that. I actually like the Nancy and Jonathan pairing better, but I think they're just going to go the route of Jonathan or Nancy are just going to decide that, hey, it's not that they don't love each other. They just want very different lives. Like he's still lying about the college letter, right? Of like, yeah, I still haven't heard back, but he could go with her. He could easily go, but he just doesn't know if he wants that life. Now, Emily and I were talking about this. One of the things he did bring up was he said he didn't know if he wanted to leave his mother. Now, with Hopper back in the picture, maybe he'll feel differently, but I still feel like I get a sense from that character overall, he just doesn't, he'd rather be doing a stoner thing. But I don't know. I think they did this on purpose because I feel like they might not even know. So they get like a whole time to write it. Like I could see it going either way, really. So where are you on this situation?
I don't like them together. I didn't like it last season. I don't like it this season. I know they're dating in real life, but I
Oh, yeah. They've
don't
been dating for, I
feel.
think, almost the whole show, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't feel it between them. Honestly, it just
Really?
feels
Oh.
awkward. So, for me, I'm okay with them not putting them together. I've thought Nancy and Steve since the beginning, and I mean, Steve has been swooning over Nancy the entire time, and he's still not over it. So, and the fact that Nancy and Jonathan do seem to be kind of drifting apart and still lying to each other, are we good? Oh yeah, we're great. When really Nancy's been flirting with Steve this entire volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, talking about the nuggets together and everything like that. So I do think that she will end up with Steve, and I think it's actually a better pairing in my mind.
See, because that's where I push back. Where I didn't get that sense last season that he was like, oh yeah, he didn't work out with Nancy, but I feel like he was still like swooning over her. I feel like they had no storylines for these three really in this season, and they're like, you know what? Steve's gonna bring up that he has like, and I also felt like Nancy had no feelings for Steve whatsoever. Then like they would recognize that okay, we had a relationship, but it didn't feel like she was still torn. It felt like that was the whole thing with Steve and her. She wanted to be a Jonathan the whole time. She kept seeing Jonathan, mean Jonathan. It was like, oh, I would really like if I could only end up with him, and then just like, well, we'll just go back to Steve because that was the point of season 1 and 2 that they. Like, I guess that's what they're trying to say, that Steve's like grown up and maybe they can do it that way. But I guess for me, I almost feel like either way, it's kind of a waste of my time. Because I feel like if she ends up with Jonathan, it was just a bunch of drama for nothing. And then she ends up with Steve. I just kind of wish they were together the whole show then. And they did something like it just because I felt like they went so hard on the Nancy and Jonathan in season 3 that I was like, okay, these guys are endgame in this episode. And I get it, things change in life and everything like that, but it's for a show. They're writers. They get to control the narrative. So I'm interested to see how season 5 plays it. It is a risk for me of feeling like it was kind of a waste of time, but I like all the characters by themselves and everything like that. So it's not like it's not terrible TV or anything. It's just, I don't know if I need it, but we'll see. It all comes down to next year. And they, like I said, they might not even know. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Definitely think at the beginning of volume 1, Nancy was Jonathan for sure. There was nothing there. Robin and Steve kept, kind of making the push that there was something, and she was totally not into it. But by the end, by the time they were talking in the woods, I think for sure it seemed like Nancy was actually starting to get closer, and I guess not closer, but more back to that original state with him. And that's probably where some of that uncertainty with Jonathan when he returns did come back.
But they can also play it up that now that Jonathan's back in the picture, and if they do the storyline next year of like, yeah, he could leave his mom and feel fine, and he matures and he becomes like a Steve where he wants to do these things stuff, they could easily spin it like that's the only reason why she was looking at Steve is because Jonathan wasn't meeting that bar, and he could next year, right? And like I said, I'm very looking forward to see if they introduce a new for Robin, they just introduced this girl randomly a couple episodes. I think for Steve they could easily do that. So I don't know when, actually I don't think they've even said when they're filming this, obviously. So I think if we hear about a actress cast that's around their age that is a female, I think that is going to be someone they'll make specifically for Steve. And I actually would almost, for me, the ending then, if they want to go that route, I'd actually like it if Steve, Jonathan, Nancy were all single and they all went their own different ways. I think that would be kind of cool because Nancy, the entire show, it's always been like having to go either this guy or that guy, this guy or that guy. I think it would be kind of a good ending if she chose to be on her own, and then I don't care what you tell me. In 20 years, they're probably going to do a revival of the show. That's why another reason I think you keep a lot of these people alive. They can literally just do it chapter 2, but with the real life actors and bring them back because everyone loves a revival. And I guarantee you in 20 years, a lot of them will be up to do it. So you can answer those questions then, but I'm open to see what they do next year. I still am in the Nancy Jonathan camp, but I can be persuaded otherwise. But I also think for the couple, it'd be kind of cool if it ended that way because they're still together, but whatever.
Well,
it's just a show.
The thing is, they could as well, it could end up being 10 episodes, and each episode is 2.5 hours, right? They could have so much time to do anything. They could introduce a whole, like you said, a whole nother person, a whole complete arc, and build it up. Honestly, I'd be okay with Jonathan getting the other girl and him and Nancy splitting and her going with Steve, because I don't know why, I just feel that they were better together. I don't like the chemistry between her and Jonathan. We'll see what happens. There's, like you said, who knows if what's even been written so far. In their, their hive mind.
What do you have to say about Joyce, Hopper, and this whole gang? I have nothing. I talked about this since Volume 1 that I just was not a fan of this. Felt like this was a waste of time. I would rather Hopper be dead. I like, of course, the moment of him and Eleven reuniting. That was really nice. All well acted, well written, all good. Joyce and, I guess that was the only thing still to do was Joyce and him to get back together, and I'm excited to see that dynamic. But again, it's like, I feel like they have to survive because they don't even get to go on a date. Like, they're in this like Armageddon like situation. So like, sure, they're together, but not like really together. Like, so I feel like they will make it out. So I'm happy he's back with the crew. That's where we got to. But I wish it was kind of like Gandalf the Grey to White, where, just took half an hour, none of that on screen, and Gandalf just popped up in the forest, and maybe they could have had Hopper come back and we get like just one Hopper episode, just showing this whole journey, and that's it. I did not need a whole season dedicated to any of this Russia stuff, and just did not do much for me. And that's what kind of kept this from being, for me, my rankings are season 3 and season 1. I think those are like 10 out of 10 seasons, but really nothing wrong with them. That storyline kept it from being anywhere close to those ones. I got this ranked 3rd, and then the second season's last. And I still think all of them would be like 8.5 or 9 out of 10, but the Russia stuff was not for me. Other than, yeah, sure, Joyce and Hopper, they had some fun back and forth, cool, but that's like a smidget of what we got. Like, they were together for an hour out of, I don't know what, 10, 11 hours, so
it was a long push getting through all that Russia stuff.
Yeah.
And,
this wasn't as bad because it was just the 2 episodes, but Volume 1 was a lot.
And it was a lot for not a lot of payoff. There was just so, at least with 11, all the buildup of, we had her to come and be the one to fight Vecna. And I'm sure there's got to be a reason they kept Hopper around. Maybe he's got the, 11 needs the power of love, and her dad is one of the people that gives that to her, or whatever.
And he's jacked now, so better cardio too. He's all like, he has muscles and he's all toned and stuff, so he's good. He's ready to go now. You think he could kill these Stranger Things creatures before the Demogorgons? Now he's gonna be running over them.
I don't think it was necessary, especially because we spent all of this time watching things in Russia. We get the introduction of the guard that turns and the peanut butter smuggler. Oh God,
the whole I hate that you're reminding me about all this storyline we went through in season 1.
And where are they? Like, we flew out of Russia, and why did we get to know them? They aren't there. They didn't come with Hopper and Joyce to, be part of
that spin-off show they're working on.
Oh God!
No, I don't know if it is.
Peanut butter smuggler.
Yeah, and that guard. They're just fighting Demogorgons in Russia.
It doesn't. I thought there would be more to it than what it gave off. With the amount of time spent on it, I am talking about Volume 1 as well. That there would be more. Maybe they will turn in the fact that Russia was able to manufacture these things, or the demi-dogs, or whatever it may be. But there was so much. There wasn't anyone left, any of the Demigorgon or the demi-dogs left in Russia. They killed all the ones that were there, so that's closed off. They all flew back. We lost Murray even, who was, where did he go to? He was a main character for 2 seasons.
He'll show back up. He'll come back for sure.
You would just think, why wasn't he with Joyce and Hopper coming to be? To me, it's just, especially, he was there for dinner. Like, everyone met him. 11 and Will and Jonathan would all know that he was part of this work conference and be thankful. I don't know. To me, just such a waste of time for such a little payoff.
Well, I think there's 2 things too. I forgot about that when they're like, because they're showing all the characters, right? Like in a classic finale, they're doing all these groups of characters doing different things happening too. And I get, like, we'll talk about, I guess, a little bit more. I forgot to shout the guy that played Lucas, like, phenomenal job in that Max scene. Like, when that stuff's like great. Like, the Duffer Brothers even said that before, like, we'll look for his performance, but he knocked it out of the park. That's a very hard stuff to do for a guy that's not been acting that much. He killed it. I can't wait to see what he does after Stranger Things. It's just phenomenal. But they're doing this, right? They're showing all this stuff happening, Max and Will and Eleven and Vecna and all this stuff. And then they go to them like, well, we got to kill these Demogorgons because like it's going to weaken everything and that'll help out the kids a bit. It didn't even feel like that. It felt like this made no difference. Like they should have, I felt like they're going to do something where this happens and Vecna even like goes do something and he's hurt, but like something like he couldn't do something or one of his bases fall. It didn't feel like that at all. We saw no residual effect of them killing these people, even though like, oh, this will help out the kids. I didn't get that sense. So that's either bad directing or maybe there was something that they edited out or just whatever it is, the pacing of it, that didn't work. And also I think it's kind of like with Eddie, with Max and with the kids and now with Joyce and Hopper, I think everyone knew how this was going to go. The second, like even episode 1, after the finale of season 3, they pretty much showed like he was alive, and then they released that teaser very early on that Hopper's definitely alive, like he's in Russia. So if the first episode was all this build up to like, oh, Hopper's actually alive, and it was like, well, there's no build up, we know he's alive. So for us, especially, it's not like Stranger Things, this little show. It's right now I'd say the biggest show in the world, probably with that, and then now that Game of Thrones is done. So it's just everyone kind of knows this, so they waste time with that. And I feel like we just all knew that Joyce was going to get him and they'd get back home. I didn't think there was no thought whatsoever that Joyce was going to go to Russia and then fucking die in Russia along with Hopper. Like that was never going to happen. And not saying I would even want that because I also feel like that's not satisfying, but you just always knew they're going to get to Russia, they're going to get him back, and you're going to have 11. And why it works is because when you get that scene with him 11, it's like, oh, it's well written, it's so well acted, you kind of forgive it. But the whole time when you're watching, that episode, it works. But when you're watching all the other hours, you just know the outcome of it, and there's no tension. Even when he gets like recaptured again, it's like he's gonna go. They're not going to. It's not Game of Thrones in its prime where anybody, even the main character, get killed off. Right now, it's not that, and maybe you could do that for next year, but it is the final season, so I feel like it's kind of expected. But watch, that'll be the twist that, like I said, they all make it out, and you thought they're gonna die. No.
So just because we're kind of on that right now, it was the volume 2 that the Duffer Brothers confirmed that 5 people were gonna die, and it is Dr. Brenner, Jason, and Eddie, and then also supposed to be Max and Vecna, but then those were fake deaths because all of a sudden they're not dead anymore.
Or technically they did die, like Lucas said, right? Yeah. She's technically dead for a minute. And that's why I don't trust them as far as I can throw. There's two of them, so I can throw them even less. But and even like the jock guy dying, it's like technically, that's 5. One, what a way for like I don't. It's not that I like that character, but I felt like that death was just so like nothing. Just like he wakes up and his insides are getting burned apart. It's just like again, like man. Feels like I don't know if it's a waste, but just like okay, that he's gone. That's it. Like that's 5 for sure, I guess. But it's just it doesn't. It's not like the 5 I'm thinking of. But let's take another ad break and then we'll get into more of this. So we will be right back. And we're back. But yeah, was there anything you wanted to add on the 5 there?
I was waiting the whole time because I remembered reading that 5 people were going to die. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this raises some stakes that I'm waiting for something to happen. And then when Max died, I was like, oh, okay, like she's one of the 5. This is happening. So I think that's part of the disappointment of her waking back up. Had I not read that 5 people were confirmed to die.
Oh, yeah. No, I hadn't seen that, so I'm lucky, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I just felt cheated by it.
The maxing. I can give them the maxing as like a fun thing. I don't give them the Vecna thing. The Vecna thing, that's like I don't even counting him as technically die.
You could tell Eddie was gone. Especially when there was the whole Steve thing. Oh, don't be a hero. Like you knew something was going to happen where he was going to be a hero. And I don't know. There's obviously a reason. Max is going to be a vessel for.
Jessica's saying Max is going to be a vessel for something. I don't know what she would be a vessel for. I don't know because I didn't have that idea. I thought there's just going to be like a full episode where they're going to go try and find Max and see if they can get her alive, and she'll have some sort of connection to Vecna or have some magical, powerful way to get them out and everything like that. So yeah, see, like what Jessica was saying there with the five brothers or the five deaths. Oh, there you go, you're back. But yeah, I didn't hear that, so I was lucky not to hear that. With Eddie, I would say that it's predictable, but man, I really love the scene they did with Dustin and his uncle, and that's where the show's so good because you're kind of like, oh, it's predictable, and come on, Stranger Things, do something big, but then it's like they do give you good scenes like that, and that was I've never met this uncle character. Doesn't matter to me, but just little touches of him like taking down his photo of the devil one and putting that back up, like it was great. And Dustin's speech was great, and the acting was great. So that's where you go, okay, I kind of forgive. But anyways, you were saying that's what I was talking about them while you're gone, is Max being a vessel, because I just felt like there's just gonna be an episode where they just have to go find Max. But what do you think should be a vessel for?
Well, I was just thinking, maybe that's how Vecna comes back into the real world.
Oh God,
like
through Max.
her subconscious is stuck in the upside down or his world, or 11 uses piggybacking on her brain to get into Vecna's or something like that. I just feel like there has to be more of a reason to keep her in the state that she's in, because she's not alive or dead. And to me, that seems like it's definitely a play for planning something.
Yeah, I think that's going to be almost like it's going to be hopefully not the whole season, but like similar to Hopper, where there's going to be like an episode or a couple where it's like we got to get Max back for some reason. She has some info or something that she, because of a mind link. At first, but before she brought her back alive, I thought like 11 was going to do some creepy shit and just like jump into her body and like take it over and be like, yeah, like I'm Max alive, but I'm happy that did not happen. Am I happy that she can just bring people back? Not necessarily, but I trust in that there is something with Max why I don't think she needed to stay alive. I like the Max character, so I'm fine with it. But I think they have some sort of plan with her body just kind of being empty per se. And I did really like that shot when she was like passing out and 11 was by Lucas and they were just in the black. And then when she like touched Max, like try and get her back to life, but it was just them from a bird's eye view, like spinning and getting smaller and smaller in the black room. Very, very cool stuff. All very cool stuff in general, except for the tendrils. All Vecna's tendrils do not look good when they're wrapping around people. They just look fake as F, but everything else looking good.
And I will take this time to shout out that, yeah, Lucas's acting in that scene, like super amazing, especially to go from when he's talking to Max right before she kind of enters into Vecna's world, and then he starts to get creepy and menacing.
Oh yeah,
too.
That was
so
good
not
too,
even just
yeah.
that emotional part, but that lead up to it. It's just super prime. Yeah. But one of the other things on Lucas and this whole situation is, how is he's just walking free. The police roll up on this girl with broken arms and broken legs.
The earthquake. That's what they would say it was, right? That something happened in the earthquake and she fell. I guarantee you that's what if they didn't say that, they will say that. That's where, because that's the first thing I thought of. Like, oh, an earthquake would explain that something fell on her, broke her limbs, and they would probably just believe that. They have this other student there that's been ripped in half too, so they just think, oh, something fell on him. So I think they would believe that story in this world of, okay, earthquake took her out.
I'll give it to you.
Now, if she comes back, do you think she's blind? Because when she said she couldn't see anything, do you think she's blind?
I could see it. Her eyes were white and glazed over, and
they still have those like streaks going on.
Yeah, obviously, Elle didn't have the power to completely bring her back, so maybe she can only bring her back to where she is, and she doesn't have any sight, and that's okay because Lucas loves her anyway, so it doesn't matter. And
I'm fine with that. I just hope not, because then we're just gonna get a whole episode. And this, I know, sounds bad, but I just feel like we're gonna get a whole episode of Max just learning to be blind, and I'm fine with that in a show. I just don't know if I need them in the final season when you're gonna have like, now these episodes are like 2.5 hours, so again they have lots of time, but I just feel like I don't know if I need that in the final season of Stranger Things to be, and maybe they would, maybe they'd say that for a finale or something, but my hope is that she's not blind, or maybe her eyesight's like partially blind, but I hope she's not blind, because then it's like Hopper and Russia, we're gonna get some time with Max in the hospital recovering. And I don't know if I want that in final season. I don't want 3 to 4 episodes of Lucas describing what something looks like to her again, or so. Like I don't know if I need that. And they could easily do that, and they'll act it well and stuff like that. But I wasn't sure how to take that, because yeah, she said she couldn't see anything, but she also died, and 11 brought her back. So I don't know what's gonna happen. They can go either way on that. So
maybe she'll have, she sees the upside down as well as reality or something like that.
Or that's
like
all
I
she
said,
sees
there's
is
that
upside down.
connection. Yeah.
Everything just looks like crap around her, but she's still alive,
So I think there'll be something, especially when they do still have those lines in her eyes in the
Yeah,
hospital
yeah.
shots at the end. They wouldn't do that if everything was just going to be normal. I
Hmm.
do think if they are going to bring her back and she's blind and she doesn't have any piece of anything, it'll just be the final episode and Lucas will be happy she's back. Max won't have any part in saving the world per se.
Yeah.
She'll just
It'll
wake up and
it'll be like when Vecna dies, like that brings her back, and like they did that in It and stuff. And this, like, they are doing a great job. I don't care. Like seasons 1 to 2 are very much an It copy, and I know you haven't watched much of them, but this is not an exact copy, but Vecna and everything is just like almost a straight rip off of Freddy Krueger. Like they even had the actor who plays Freddy Krueger play Vecna's dad. Like that's how deep it is. Like the whole everything you saw like with Lucas when he like started to get all scary. That's like a Freddy Krueger trope where you wouldn't know you're in a dream and you look over and your friend's normal and then they're like getting mad at you or something. So this is like not completely, but a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. So and that happens a lot. Like when Freddy dies, someone's curse is released and they're free of Freddy and blah 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 blah. So.
well, wasn't it supposed to be a Michael Myers thing too, with the shotgun out the window and then he's just not there?
Oh yeah, that's
Afterwards?
definitely a tribute of like looking out the glass and he's not there. Plus we got the Michael Myers mask back. That was another one where like I didn't remember she dressed up as Michael Myers. So that was like a fun callback that she had that mask in the trailer and stuff. And Billy came back again, so I wasn't expecting that. I thought we were only gonna see him in Volume 1, but he came back again and not just flashbacks. He was after Max and all that stuff was good. I really liked Max like jumping through different memories to try and outrun Vecna. Like that was cool. Like the skateboard to like a date with Lucas to the prom and all these things. That eventually was too late. And that was another scene that I hated. That they're at the prom and Vecna's about to kill her. I don't know how many times the Max Sadie Sink had to act out the whole like her head going up and about to get the claws, but that's happening. And then like 11 like gets him. There's two things again. It's fine because it's kind of like a younger teeny type of show, but she like turns Vecna around to say like hi and then like throws him. I thought, well, that was dumb. And then also her and Max just talking away, giving time. Vecna like, no, once Vecna's down, you just take him, you keep slamming him over and over and you rip them apart. Like it felt kind of weird. It felt like 11 wanted to completely kill him, but then like later on, because Matt like he was gonna kill Max, she's like, you're not a monster. Like I feel like that didn't track as well. I felt like they should have played it the whole time that 11 was like, no, I could save him, I could just talk to him. It felt like she was fully there to kill him until she didn't have the power. Then she's like, well, you're not a bad guy, like you don't have to do this. Like I don't think they really did that the greatest. And yeah, I didn't like that she was not on the attack with Vecna. And I know there's a budgetary thing, but it's just like I don't buy them talking for this moment. Like, oh, it's great to see you. It's like, no, this guy, like, this is the guy. Like, get on him. But no, the teens had a big problem of finish off Vecna in the finale episode.
I think this was part of the problem as well with the power imbalance. When she first comes in, she's so powerful and she can grab him and turn him and throw him. And then there's a period where she's just getting completely, ass handed to her. And then she gets Mike, who comes back and is, I love you. And she gets, powerful again. She can control the tendrils and they come off. But then she can't do anything against Vecna again until they start attacking him on the outside. But then she's powerful enough to bring Max back. It just seemed really, is Vecna stronger than her, or
I would
like
think so. Well, just now because he's had so many times, and he's this guy who had the power, and then found this like creepy cloud dust that also had power to absorb that. But I guess you could chalk it up to the first time she attacked Vecna. It was from behind, right? So you could say, well, he didn't see her coming. And then I don't mind the Mike thing because I feel like that is comparable to like Max's running up that hill, and they hadn't learned that yet, right? They weren't around to learn like if positive thoughts or thinking or motivation can make you more stronger. So I was fine with that one. Yeah, I don't know about the bring her back and Vecna at the end there was I blame I blame Steve, Nancy, and Robin more for that one. They dropped the ball. 11 did her job. She kept him busy. She had him going. They couldn't take out this body. They let him fall out a window. They walk out to go see if he's there, and he's gone. Who would have thought?
Hopper needed to kill those demigorgons
Yeah,
faster. He
that's
was
too.
dropping the ball.
Yeah, Joy. Well, I also didn't like. I get it that it was Hopper's moment, but I was like, is there no guns or anything that Joyce and Murray could be helping? Like, it just felt like they just like let him just do his thing. It's just like anything, a rock, like help the dude out. But no, it was he had no problem. He just 1v1 this Demogorgon. You did it, so I can't say he was wrong. So
With a sword too. It was
with a sword,
intense.
yeah. Speaking about the five, I was gonna say because I'm not a fan of the actor who plays Dr. Brennan, so I was very happy in season 1 when he was gone. And I know they had always talked about bringing him back, and I was like, yeah, but they killed him, and no, he somehow survived. Luckily, I think he's dead. The character serves enough of a purpose. I get it. I've just never been a fan of Papa. I'm not a big fan of Matthew Modine in any stuff. I think he's a very kind of he overacts a lot. I never feel like he's like a real person. And maybe that's how he is in real life. I just have never liked him. This guy almost like he single-handedly ruined every scene he was in The Dark Knight Rises. He's awful in that. And yeah, so I'm happy he's gone. I like that 11 said bye but didn't really for like he was looking for like forgiveness or acceptance like kind of while he was dying, and she didn't give that to him, just said like goodbye Papa. So like I liked it enough. But my whole thing talking about the whole Vecna thing of like it's always been you, when 11 has that speech of like none of this would have happened, it was for you, like if it wasn't because of you, and she kind of has this revelation. It's just like I feel like haven't we realized this like in season 1 or 2, and I get it because she's older now, but I just feel like that moment didn't hit for me of like, man, Dr. Brennan, like he really screwed up and it's his fault. It's like, yeah, I feel like it's always been his fault. Like he's always been the guy that fucked this whole thing up. But the show this season treated it as like this is the first time we put it all together. It's like he's always been a shady guy. Even when they brought him back, I was like, I never trusted him. And they show in this season, right, not to trust him because he turned on the other guy, the other doctor and stuff. So that stuff again was predictable. I knew that he's gonna do something bad. He's always after 11. Even if he's there, he gives the same speech of, "Oh, I'm looking out for you. I love you. I'm trying to help you." But he's also giving her shock therapy and all this. So it's just like, I don't know. It's his storyline was something we've seen before with this exact same character. So I hope to God there's no way 11's bringing this dude back. You know.
I in part 1, volume 1, I did enjoy those kind of flashback scenes when she was learning her powers and learning all of, that final episode of volume 1 where it leads up to 1 opening the upside down and being cast out. That whole lead up and build up, I just thought was absolutely great because we've just thought 11's been this evil person the whole time, and then to find out, how that all happened and connecting all those pieces. And part of that is the doctor. So, I will give him that, and his character does feel, you're not supposed to like him, and he isn't likable. So in that sense, I think that it's good. But I agree. It's predictable. We knew that he was the one that was experimenting on children and stealing children. We knew that blaming 11 for everything that happened, screwing her up more. There's a lot of different things. I was unfazed by, his death. I was actually kind of surprised that 11 brought it up when she was facing Vecna, and there was kind of no feeling for it, because she was trying to use that as a
he gave that speech where she's trying to say he was the monster, but then Vector's like, no, he never was. I was always the monster. And it's like, okay, I know where this is going.
I thought that it would be. I thought there would be at least some different reaction there, especially because the whole thing was about how much she hated him, and I felt like there had to be more of a reason for, creating such a hatred at the end besides just her saying bye Papa and one having no reaction.
Yeah.
But
he's like, I don't even remember that dude. It's been like how long? Well, I guess it actually hasn't been that long because I guess it's only, I always forget the show's been on for it's like since 2015, but really in their world it's only been like 3 or 2 years or something like that. So even when one got like ousted out, I'm thinking like, oh, that was 10 years ago. Actually it wasn't. It was just like because like 11 was a child, so it was only a couple years ago, so he should remember the doctor. But I'm sure he's seen so much wild shit that he has other things working. He's working to open these portals. He got setups in Russia. Vecna's a busy guy now. He doesn't have time for Dr. Brenner anymore.
Oh, I want to just throw out anytime Vecna is on screen, I just love the subtitles. Squelches. Walks squelchingly. Wetly.
It was like wet streaming or something, like when his like tendrils move. And same thing, I love how many different uses of synth there was. Like instrumental Sith, metal Sith, dire Sith, intense Sith. And then I liked at one point it was like epic version of running up that hill. And it's just like, I get it, but at the same time, when they put like epic, it's like, that's kind of weird. And I also think, I wonder if that song was always supposed to be there for the finale with running up that hill and they use like the epic version. I could see because Max isn't in that scene, and none of these characters have anything to do with running up that hill. I get it, it's tied to the show, but I felt that maybe it could have been a different song, and they're like, yeah, but this like it's so big, like let's just put it in here again. I will say, as somebody that already had like I already liked the song, I knew the song for years. I am now over this. I'm ready to be done with the song for until next year. I'm fine if it comes up again, but because it's TikTok and everywhere and stuff like that. But it was a good vibe to have. But yeah, the subtitles. If you don't watch with subtitles, it's great. There's so much. They're very descriptive. You know, especially with even the score. They're very descriptive. They're like operatic, like operatic metal pinging tones. It's like okay, it's just even then it's still like I imagine a deaf person couldn't know exactly what that's like, but they're trying their best to set a vision for like what it would be. So it's like good on them, you know.
Yeah, there'll be like melody or emotional music, and then faster emotional music, and emotional music stops.
Yeah, yeah, they're on point with it.
They are, but just the squelching and the wetly and the sound effects for Vecna are just great.
Oh yeah, they're great. Well, I think. Oh, the only thing I want to show out my last, I think, note that I had, and then you can show with everything. I liked Robin, hopefully looking like she's finally getting the girl. I liked the fake out of she likes this girl. Steve kind of thinks like, yeah, she's probably like they had this back and forth. Like, do you think she's into women? And Steve kind of put out some points, and Robin had some points. And I liked the fake out when they went to like the gun store that she had a boyfriend. So it was like, okay, is she going to be someone that's in the closet, or going to be something that they read this entire situation wrong? And I like that they didn't really reveal that to the finale, and they had a fun back and forth. Robin's gonna pull this poor girl in the fucking just like the hellscape. Like she's gonna be to put this relationship where she's gonna be in like fighting beasts and demons and stuff. So, you know, maybe she would have been better off not meeting Robin. But, you know, I really like Maya Hawke. I'm hoping that after Stranger Things, Maya Hawke is in a lot more stuff because I think like she's always good in this. I just want to see her in more. And it always still just it's just crazy how I just feel like I'm watching a deep fake or a DH Uma Thurman all the time. It's just nuts how much they look and sound like each other. But I really like the Robin character. I like that supposedly it looks like she has a pairing now. We'll see how that goes next year. But that was my last note for anything in the show. So if you want to talk about that or anything else, feel free to spout off and I'll respond accordingly.
I wasn't a super big fan of Robin when we first got her back in season 3, but I've definitely grown to like her, and I felt like she was, you know, a fairly big player in this part of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I could still see everything that happening without her, more or less, minus maybe, you know, that jail scene.
Well, and they needed her work this season, right? For the phones and everything. They needed that for some reason, remember? At the store. I can't remember the exact reason, but they needed her. But
it's pretty much the same reason that we got Argyle.
Yeah.
You know, for the salt.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's just... But, you know, overall, I do think that it is good that we are seeing some LGBTQ plus representation, even if they don't address Will with having Robin, because this is, like you said, probably one of the biggest shows right now.
Oh, yeah.
So I do think that that's great that they are at least putting something like that in. And, you know, it Mike gets a girl, you know, Jonathan or Steve gets a girl. You got to give Robin a girl, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone's getting the girl.
Well, I thought if it did happen, they did that fake out, it would happen next year, but it seems like that's who they're with. And oh yeah, and I love that in season 3 because I didn't see that coming at all. I thought, oh yeah, this is the setup for Robin and Steve the entire time because I actually really liked the Robin character. But like, that was such a great bait and switch in that finale to reveal that she was gay and Steve's been barking up the tree, the wrong tree the whole time. And I was like, oh, very clever, very very fun way of doing that because I didn't. And I haven't rewatched season 3, so I'm excited to see if I can pick up on that. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, damn! Oh, sorry, Steve, swing and a miss." But
well, and the chemistry between Robin and the new girl, I forget her name already.
Yeah.
But I thought they worked really well together. It was super cute and awkward. So I enjoyed that scene. It was kind of that fun, heartfelt moment at the end of it, and then Steve watching and smiling, you know, from afar. I did definitely really like that as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
Uh, yeah. Anything else you have?
No, I think we talked about it. We talked about the Will Mike people. We talked about Lucas. I like that Lucas' sister's still just more like I've always liked that character. They haven't given her much development, but she's likable, and I like that she's in the adventures. I'm hoping next year they bring back Dustin's girlfriend, and she gets to be in these adventures more because they were always like a fun pairing. Yeah, no,
Susie. Yeah.
yeah, Susie, yeah. Talked about Eddie again. I thought that actor did a great job. I'm hoping to see. I hope the show like kind of propels him forward. I hope they find some reason to bring him back next year, not to bring him back to life, but just some sort of. I feel like a lot of the dead characters might get some sort of moment or something. But yeah, his death scene was great. The heroism was great. I love the scene with him and Dustin before he like the night of when he's just telling him like to never change and stuff. He played that character very well, which a character could have been very cheesy or very just kind of over the top, and he did it well. But no, I think I've talked about or hit all the points that I needed to.
On the Eddie thing, I is there anyone else that has died in the Upside Down?
Oh, like I would say no that I can remember, but I'm sure there has to be somebody.
So
Has to be
because
somebody.
they could bring him back if fans are upset enough, and well, he's the only person to die
Oh,
in
I
the
hope
Upside
not.
Down, so maybe he comes back as one of Vecna's minions and then turns on him because he
Mm,
was. I worry that because he is the only person that's died in the Upside Down, that especially we did have this big heartfelt moment about him being dead. I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know, maybe. So
You're
yeah,
not like
that's
I don't think anybody's out of like bringing back like anybody's on the table other than maybe like Barb and Samwise Gamgee and stuff like that. But like I wouldn't put it past them to find a way. But I hope not. It was such a good emotional send off. I hope it sticks with that.
yeah, I agree. As much as I liked him as a character, I think lets him go out as a hero despite the whole town
Mm-hmm.
absolutely hating him.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was definitely the highlight of this season for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so pretty much we talked about most of my notes. In my opinion, I think that it seemed like basically there was no real arcs for anyone except for, Eddie got his arc
Mm-hmm.
and 11, went from no powers to being more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But and understanding where her language stopped and getting more language skills now that she's done it. But other than that, I don't know that there was much character development with anyone. Maybe Steve talking about how he's grown.
Yeah, I think there's like mini ones because I think this is it's not an unfortunate thing, but I think it's a tough thing that they got to set up the final season. So that I think you'll get some development, but I think now the later season of this and in season 5, it's going to be a lot more of the adventure, fight the monsters type of season, because I feel like they will develop him the same way of like Will technically or Mike developed a little bit by saying he realized he loves 11 and doesn't want to let her go and he's pushing her away. Will developed a little bit by saying like he has to talk with his brother more and he has to, yeah, like I feel like they all gave them like little bits of it. Same thing, Lucas. He developed a little bit by realizing like he didn't want it. He wanted to be a jock, but he realized that was the wrong thing, and he should have been with his friends the whole time. So it's like little lines here and there, and they like show little things. But I think it's just because the season's one. I think like Max said earlier, it is tough when there is so many characters. I think that is a problem with the show. But then when we are in like the final moments, it is like the end game battle where it's like you're not going to get much development for Tony Stark because he's just here to die, right? And I think that's where these characters are either here to die or live until next year, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I can agree, like nothing, like, not anyone in a huge arc other than Eddie, but Eddie seems to be everyone's standout, so I guess that's kind of like a pro then, at least for the character everyone liked the most, that he had the biggest arc, so it kind of worked for that. Plus the other characters, they got another season to get an arc if they need it, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You would think with what feels like a 40-hour season, there would just be more development.
Yeah.
But we'll see what comes. And it's true, there is little bits sprinkled throughout. Will, coming back to with being able to be connected. Well, now we're developing his character as being one of the conduits for how things will move forward.
Mm-hmm.
There are little things, but I just felt there was just a lot of time, and we could have cut some Russia and
Oh yeah,
given it to some
absolutely.
character development. The other thing, too, just because we kind of touched on it in spoiler free, you were happy with that ending? Just standing on the hill, watching the clouds. Like, to me, that was just kind of
Yeah, because I think it's good for, to me, it's the shits hit the fan. To me, it's like, yeah, it was very dramatic and just staring, but it's very much like, again, Lord of the Rings at the end of Two Towers, Samwise and Frodo just looking at Mount Doom. And it's just like, that's next. For all this build up, these 4.5 hours that you've had, now it's like, okay, now it's really, really real because now they got to get to that tower and throw that ring in lava. This is that where it's like they've always wanted to avoid the upside down coming here, and now it's like it's too late, it's happening. It's always been, oh, you guys just save the day, you just save the day. This time, that's why I compared to Infinity War, you didn't save the day. Sure, you saved some people, but Thanos still snapped the same way. Yeah, you took out Vecna for maybe killing Max and some others, but he still split everything apart. So that's why I liked it, and I think it's good for marketing next year because it's just, again, you can really show off, hey, like this season, like you're gonna have like those bats in the real world. You're gonna have characters like Mike's parents seeing this stuff real. Like you're gonna have everyone that thought, and this is where Eddie could get redeemed. Everyone that thought Eddie was a fucking crazy psychopath cult guy. No, he wasn't. It was the upside down. So that's where I liked it. It was, I thought they were gonna just, oh, it was an earthquake, and then the whole season would be, oh, there's crazy stuff happening, but we don't know what it is. This kind of shows, okay, they have to acknowledge this stuff. They had like red lightning in the sky at the end of the season. Like now it's too late now for them to be like, oh, this isn't real anymore. At least I think. So that's what I liked about it. It was like the stakes like for next season got set up.
I guess I can understand how you appreciate it. I guess for me, it was more, leading up to that, it was jumping back and forth between the cabin and the hospital. And then there was, the feel good moment of everyone reuniting, the feel good moment of her and Hopper, and the feel good moment between everyone else and Nancy and Jonathan, having their moment. It was all just it just kind of calm, and it didn't feel like a big buildup. It just kind of felt like we had all this stuff happen, and then we were kind of in a downward lull, and they kind of tried to go back up again with that ending scene, and it was just, the excitement or the momentum of what had happened just was dying off because everyone had already done their piece for this season. So for me, that's more how I felt about it. It was just like, yes, I knew this was coming, but it felt like there could have been something else that happened that, led up to it. Like maybe, they were in the hospital and 11 looks in Max's head and sees nothing. And then as they're leaving the hospital, then it's starting to roll in or something. Have it I don't know, just the feel good moment and then trying to go into this ending cliffhanger. It just felt anticlimactic to me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I can see it's tough because I know they want to get the characters back together, but then you still also want to have this ending. So, because I know for marketing, like all of the marketing, I think will be about that the group's all together. Like I don't think they're gonna split them up next year. They'll get like little missions, but no, I can see what you're saying. So, anything else?
Yeah, I think we touched pretty much everything else, kind of while we were going through it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Season 4, Volume 2 done. Season 5 will be in about 8 years, so you can expect that review at some point in the GV 10 year. But no, I'm sure it will probably be about 2 years somewhere in then. And yeah, no, it was exciting to watch. I'm excited to see what everyone else thinks, and it seems like most people are so positive. And I am too. I think I'm somewhere in like an 8.59 out of 10. If you were to ask me for this season, I'd have to watch it actually as a whole thing together. But yeah, we'll see. So, anything else to say before we get out of here?
Uh, I'm excited to see how much more de-aging we have to do on our 25-year-old actors when they're supposed to be 15 in the final season. But other than that, yeah, I'm excited to rewatch the whole thing. This, like you said, the flashbacks and everything made it, give it some more kind of, you want to know the depth of everything going into the final season. So I'm excited to watch it all as one piece and look for those little Easter eggs and considerations, Robin and Vecna.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah, it was a fun watch.
Yeah. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know what you thought about it down below, whether you're watching YouTube, Twitter, Discord, Facebook, or anywhere else. Let us know what you would think. Let us know what you rate it, stuff like that. And yeah, when you hear from us next, I promise you, I'll be boring.
Goodbye.